we know it's always a very special day for many, many reasons in St. Louis, and really wherever Cardinals fans are gathered. They can be out of state, they can be at home somewhere in Nevada or Michigan. It doesn't matter. They're everywhere. If you give us a general rundown of what's going to be happening, before the game, we know about the great parade, the motorcade coming out, but give us an idea of some of the things that you think will be really, really special for the home opener this year.
Sure. Well, it's probably not giving away any trade secrets to say that the Clydesdales will be in the house.
Scoop.
We will have a bunch of opening day, like the pep rallies at 10 to 12:30 at Ballpark Village. KMOX has their kegs and eggs thing. Just a lot of media will be set up. Gates open at noon. And then of course the pregame ceremonies, it starts at 2:30.
And I think that that cavalcade, that motorcade, whatever you want to call it, that's always a highlight on the calendar every single year, just to see all the guys coming back. And I was just kind of reviewing things a little bit, and of course I know that we as St. Louis Cardinals baseball fans in the community and the franchise have lost a lot of really great immortal Cardinals, and it's just it's a reality of life, that how many have passed on. But it says a lot about the Cardinals' history that even with all of the Cardinal greats who are no longer with us, who have been a part of these opening days during their time for many, many years, decades even, that you still have an incredibly prestigious group of Hall of Fame alums that'll be there as part of the opening day this year. And I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, but it's still an incredibly special thing, even though some of the more cherished Cardinals are no longer with us.
Yeah, I think you're right. We did, when we set up the Hall of Fame, about 10 years ago, we did it for all the obvious reasons, but one of the things that has turned out to be something that we didn't even anticipate is just, the Red Jacket group obviously grew because of that. And, because we've lost, those great Cooperstown Hall of Famers, Stan and Red and Lou and Gibby, it's taken a little bit of the sting off of that, I think, to have these more recent guys come and just carry that torch. You think about guys like Rowland and McGuire, more recent guys who just have taken the mantle up, and they're like, hey, this is great. I'd love to be part of this. Now, and it's a little different, obviously, because, how do you replace Stan and Gibby? You just don't. But I think that, we've had enough of greatness, in the last several decades that I think these guys are worthy of being down there in red jackets on opening day.
That's Bill DeWitt III with us here, and appreciate his presence, which is going to be a very, very busy week for him and his staff, everyone out there in the Cardinals organization, as everyone's gearing up for one of the great days on the St. Louis sports calendar, to say the least. Home opener coming up on Thursday against the Miami Marlins. Wanted to ask you this. Well, let's talk baseball. How do you? There was an interesting first series. Seriously, because the Cardinals could have lost all four. They could have split. We were all hoping they would have won that game last night. But the bullpen was a little shorthanded. It wasn't meant to be. But what do you make of the first four games? And it's only 4 games. So what do you make of it?
It's funny because I went through such a roller coaster of emotions, and I was thinking, like, I've been doing this for, this is our 29th season. You would think I'd have a little perspective, but I was like biting my nails yesterday in the airport before I left town from LA, and I'm like, if this is how this is going to be for 162, I may have to get a new line of work here. But it just had the feel to it because, like, we know how good the Dodgers are. And losing the first 2 was kind of depressing, and then a good sort of back and forth gutty win in Game 3, and then we kind of had them on the ropes there. So it was very disappointing, but I think we're in for a wild ride this year. We've got a lot of talent, but we've got to get guys settled and their roles established, and it starts with that bullpen, which I think probably took on a little too much the first 4 games, and that Dodger lineup's deep.
Boy, is it ever! Yeah, that's an impressive team. Listen, they and the Dodgers at home. Over the last 2 years, their winning percentage is just crazy, and they're going to win a lot of series from a lot of teams that go in there this year. And this might be the best Dodger team of the recent teams that we've seen. I mean, they don't even have their full squad yet. So I know that it's nobody wants to lose, but I try to be reasonable about this, and it's not exactly a disgrace to go into Dodger Stadium with that situation. And you had less than your full team, and you lose 3 out of 4, but you very easily could have come out of there 2-2, and that's okay. I just don't get too worked up about the actual record. Now, if you stink in San Diego, I might. No, I'm just kidding. Looking forward to for you guys coming home. Is there anything, not to turn you into a tour guide because you're the president of the team, but is there anything new about home games at Busch Stadium this season in terms of new for fans, from the fan perspective? Is there anything you want to talk about? For what people can look forward to, maybe that you haven't done before, some new things?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I guess the shiny new penny is our 703 Club, Budweiser 703 Club, which is where the old bow tie bar was, out in left field, kind of under Big Mac land, and that area tucked back under that deck. We've enclosed that space. It was kind of the pregame, postgame spot for many years for a lot of people. But with Ballpark Village being what it is and other areas that we've created, it sort of ceased to be that function. And so we enclosed it, and now it's an all-inclusive club. In St. Louis, people love all-inclusive tickets. We have as many as any team, and we do very well in that particular category. And we have a wide range of all-inclusive type tickets. So from the high-end Cardinals Club down to this new 703 Club, and then, Coke Patio, et cetera, et cetera. So that's going to be really cool for people to see. You got to buy a ticket for it, but I think it's worth it. Number of food and beverage options that are new. We've got a few, subs that are going to be there for us. It's new coats of paint, new signage, some new game day fun stuff that Tony Simakaitis and his crew have ready for the game day stuff. But, I think in general it's going to be a very familiar thing coming up to opening day, but we love to create some new stuff for everybody too. You
always do. I want to ask you this. The Cardinals, of course, are almost legendary in terms of home attendance and the heights that you all have reached over a long period of time. Especially since the new ownership regime took over in 1996. It's been pretty special. Tough year. Don't need me or anyone else to remind you of that, and everyone's trying to move ahead. I know I am. However, did last year's kind of tough, cruel season, did it do anything to hurt business? In other words, what do you expect in terms of home attendance this year? Will you take a hit at all? It's such a great baseball market, and even the surrounding states. It's just such a great regional market. I would imagine you're still going to do really, really well in terms of home attendance. Yeah, we're certainly budgeting for an aggressive return. We're budgeting $3 million, which is a little lower than we've been the last couple of years. Largely because of the bad team last year. I think that'll hurt us a little bit in terms of attendance. I think if the team plays well as we move into April and May, we have a chance to overachieve on that $3 million and get up to where we would be if we were sort of winning divisions like we have in the past. So there's no sugarcoating it. It doesn't help when you have a losing season, but you're right. The fan base is great. It's strong. We continue to try to be innovative with our promotional approach, make sure we get butts in the seats over chasing the last penny. And I think, that strategy has served us well in the past and will continue to do that, so
so that people can, put Busch Stadium on their calendar and families can come. And like you said, we do really well from the outer markets. And one of our initiatives this year is to really understand that outer market a little bit better and part of that rolls into the local media strategy, because if we ever get our local rights back sooner than we're supposed to because of all that's going on there, we better know our market in and out. And so we've made that effort to understand a little better this year.
Can you provide an update in terms of the TV situation, which you just referenced to? I haven't hounded you hardly at all about this stuff because I figured it'd all work out, and nothing's 100%. Branded into history about where you're headed next. But could you just give us some perspective on, where you are with local TV, but maybe where it could go, some of the contingency plans you're making in case it's a different system going into effect next year? There's seems to be a lot of variables.
Yeah, there are. It's we're watching it very closely. Obviously, the parent company of Bally Sports Midwest is this Diamond Sports Group, and they're in bankruptcy. They have a plan to emerge from bankruptcy later this summer. But in the meantime, it's kind of business as usual for us. They've continued to pay us our rights fees, and so we're still in that long-term contract with them. And, that's certainly possible that they come out of bankruptcy and continue, being our partner for many more years. But obviously, with what's happened to a few teams, notably recently San Diego, Arizona, and I think Colorado now. Well, Texas also had to redo their deal a little differently because of what happened. But those three teams are actually being broadcast by MLB Media. MLB set up a company to kind of deal with the rights because they came back to the clubs because they weren't able to pay them. So we're seeing that disruption and obviously making contingency plans. So, for example, if the rights came back to us, we would probably work with MLB to figure out a distribution strategy. In any event, I think the fans should know that whatever happens, we're going to be broadcasting the games and they'll have access to the games. In fact, I think in the future, fans should expect better access than they have now. Right now, you can get it on Direct, you can get it on Charter Spectrum, you can get Bally Sports Midwest on Fubo. But after that, there's a few other spots. But for those who are on, for example, Dish, or for example, YouTube TV, many people had their TV on that. Those have dropped Bally Sports Midwest. We try to get back on there, but for now they're not on there, and that's created access problems for a lot of our fans. We're very aware of it. We get it. It's frustrating, but these contractual obligations are sort of keeping us from getting it out there in a direct-to-consumer way, like with an app, for example. But I think in the future that will be available for a monthly fee so that anybody who either cut the cord or has been dropped off of their system will have a direct access option.
We live in confusing times. It doesn't really matter how old you are either, because I've always been kind of way ahead of the curve, I think. Like, for example, DirecTV. I got DirecTV like literally, I think it was before your father and partners purchased the team. It was like that winter. That's when I got DirecTV installed. That's a long time. Yeah, it's a long time ago. So listen, I think a lot of people, even older guys like me, we try to keep up with it or even stay ahead of it. But we live in confusing times, to use that old saying. So I know for a lot of people, it probably makes them dizzy to try to even think about, okay, where do I go? What do I do? What's next? And it's a very confusing time. How difficult of a challenge is that, not only just for the Cardinals, but all the other franchises that are in the same boat?
Yeah, this is really affecting pretty much all the baseball teams, the NBA teams, and the NHL teams. The Blues have the same concerns. So I mean, it's a whole thing beyond even just sports. I mean, if you think about it from a big picture standpoint, about 10 years ago, 120 million households had basic cable packages. And today that's down to, like, depending on, what kind of research you look at, about 60 million. So literally that's been cut in half. Half the households have cut the cord. And so that's created huge disruption for content providers in terms of, well, how do we access our fans? And so you want to have a direct-to-consumer option like we all do with our content. If you've cut the cord and now you have all these different apps and streamers, it's actually become a pain. It's worse to be a customer of media now than it ever was. It's sort of careful what you wish for. At some point it'll hopefully get more simple or rebundling in some way, but it's definitely affecting all content providers, and everybody's still trying to figure out how to survive in sort of a hybrid media environment that we're in right now.
Bill, one more thing for you, because I know you're busy. Thanks for your time. What are your feelings about the 20? The Cardinals as they move into another year, and there's some questions. We all have those. I mean, nothing's absolute. Some of the early injuries aren't helpful, but what do you think the upside is with this team? What are some of the things that you really like, really confident, and what are some of the things that are kind of X factor to you, where it's going to be important for it to go in a positive way, but you're not quite sure which way it's going to go? Just give us your assessment of Cardinals baseball as it stands right now.
Yeah, I would say if you kind of look at the basic projections from outside sources, which I know you look at, they have us kind of right there with the Cubs and the Reds. Even the Pirates are improved. The Brewers are a good team. They won the division last year, walking away. So it's a very tight division, and I think it kind of gets back to our initial comment about those Dodgers series. Like, I think we're in for a wild and crazy season because, we're gonna compete well in our division. Some other divisions might be a little ahead of the Central talent-wise, and now that you play every team, I think we have enough talent to compete against all these other divisions. But certain things have to fall into place. Our veterans need to probably have better years than they had last year. And we have to see that improvement that you always hope for out of the young players and the up-and-comers, the Mason Winds and the Jordan Walkers of the world, and to see guys like Tommy Edman and Lars Nootbaar get back from injury and be who we think they're ready to be. And then I think Mo did a good job of shoring up the staff. Obviously, yeah, would we have loved to get 3 aces? Sure. It just wasn't realistic, but to get guys who wanted to be here, are competitors. You saw what Lynn did the other day, very competitive, love having him back. Getting deeper into games, I think, is a real key to this season. As you know, we kind of taxed the bullpen early and often, and ultimately that was probably the singular reason we couldn't make up much ground when we got off to a bad start. So I like what we've done in that regard. So I'm optimistic. I really am. I think there's some things that probably aren't repeatable that happened, kind of whatever could go wrong did last year. And I think I would take the over on the Vegas odds.
I don't even know where they are right now, but I'm assuming they're probably in the mid-80s for wins, something like that.
Yeah, mid to high 80s, I think was sort of what I was reading about a week ago. Yeah,
I'm fascinated by it because I think the bottom of the Central, so to speak, has been getting stronger. Milwaukee they're kind of in a transition. The Cubs they're ambitious, but they haven't been crazy. They've been pretty disciplined in terms of spending, and so the Cardinals fit in there. But it's probably not as strong at the top as it's been, but it's not as weak at the bottom as it's been. So that should make for a really competitive summer. I mean, a lot of drama in the NL Central. I actually think it's better than people think, because I think there's going to be more balance. And when there's more balance, that means the teams that we're used to seeing at the bottom for a long time, they're moving up. Maybe the Cardinals have taken a hit and they're regenerating. And the Cubs have not gone bananas with their spending to the point where they've really gone hard trying to build a superpower. So it's a very interesting division to me. So
yeah, I agree. If you look at the and while you might not put it as a top division in baseball right now, you fast forward 3 years, every one of the teams in the Central has like a larger number of prospects in the top 100 than what they would have on an average basis. And so, it's only going to get better and more competitive. And so some of these rivals that we've always had, the Cubs and to some extent the Reds, Pirates will be getting better, like you said, Brewers. I think these are going to be spicy rivalries. And it's going to be, I just think, a really exciting year from the standpoint of we should be in every series. If our guys do what we think they can do, we should come out of top and be right there at the end.
Bill DeWitt III, I know you're really busy. Thanks for your time today, and we'll talk again once everything gets underway, and maybe I'll even make a surprise appearance at the ballpark one of these days. So, but it's great to have you on as always.
Looking forward to that. Thanks for having me.
All right, absolutely. That's Bill DeWitt III, president of the Cardinals. Always enjoy talking to him. I think there's a lot of balance in the Central. Some people will say that means it's mediocre. I tend to look at it the other way, because if the bottom of your division, as it's been, is much stronger now, and maybe at the top it's a little weaker, that makes for a hell of a race. That's the way I look at it. It makes for a hell of a race, and frankly, it also means that a team like the Cardinals, who could go either way, I think they're going to be pretty good, but what's their ceiling? I don't know. I have my doubts, but there's no reason to declare on the first day of April they're going to win this amount of games, period. Who knows? There's a lot of variables go into it. But I think there's a lot of balance in this division. Frankly, the Cubs could have really gone nuts in terms of spending. And they could have tried to maybe build pardon the expression, kind of like a superpower team, but they didn't do it. And they've got some issues with their rotation now, and they really didn't. Well, they did. They really didn't go all out and use their financial war chest to go out and buy a lot of elite starting pitching. They were very disciplined, if you want to put it that way. So I just think there's a lot in the division where maybe the Cardinals and the Cubs aren't as strong as people thought they would be. The Brewers, I think, are better than people think they will be. We know the Reds have a chance to be really good, and I believe that the Pirates have a chance to be better than they've been. They were improved last year, but I think they have a chance. If you line up their roster next to even the St. Louis roster, and you're like, well, wow, they got some things going on, and that's exactly the point. I think the Pirates they're no longer, slap these guys around, collect your series win. I mean, I don't see them as that kind of team anymore. I'm not saying they're great, but they're ascending, and I think they're going to be tougher than they have been for a long time. So it's going to be a really good division, and I think there's going to be a lot of balance. The Cubs have the war chest. The Cardinals have a war chest. A lot of this could come down to who's going to use the war chest come approaching the trade deadline. That could be part of it. So, but I'm looking forward to a lot of baseball this offseason.